Look, I want to tell you about a car. I needed a new car. So I did what most people would do. I started saving, consistent, discipline, every month putting money aside, with a clear target in mind. The car cost around 30,000 euro. After 3 years of saving, I had around 25,000 euros, getting close, almost there. And then I checked the prices again, 35,000 euro. The car had gone up by 5,000 while I was saving for it. 3 years of consistent, disciplined saving, and I was further away from buying it than when I started. See, I was not spending the money. I was not making bad decisions. I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do. But inflation moved faster than my savings. And every month I saved, the target moved further away. That was the moment inflation stopped being an abstract concept for me. It stopped being a percentage on a news channel. It became something I felt personally, in my own bank account, against my own goals. And once I understood that, what was happening, I started saying it everywhere. In my rent, in my supermarket bill, in my parents' life, in the savings my mother put in a bank account that quietly lost value every single year, while she thought she was doing something responsible. Today, I want to show you exactly what inflation is doing to your money, right now, whether you can feel it or not. Welcome to Nobody Told Mike. I am Mike, an ex-director at one of the big four. In fact, I work for all of them. This channel exists for one reason: the financial conversation nobody had with us growing up. Everything in this video is for educational purpose only. I am not a financial advisor. Nothing here is a financial advice. Always speak to a qualified professional before making any financial decision. Now, let us talk about the most misunderstood force in personal finance. So, let me tell you about my mother. She owned an apartment, and at some point in time she decided to sell it. She took the money, around 50,000 euro, and put it in the bank, for safety, for later, for the kind of security that a bank account feels like it provides. 5 years later, I asked her about what she was doing with the money. She said, the bank is paying me around 3% interest, and I'm earning money on it. And I said, but do you know what the apartment is worth now? Around 75,000 euro. So she sold an asset worth 50,000, put the money in a bank account earning 3% interest, and 5 years later the asset she sold was worth 75,000 euro, while her saving account has grown to around 57,000 euro. All the time she thought she was being responsible. She thought 3% interest earning on the money is a lot. But she did not realize that inflation and asset price growth had been running faster than her saving account the entire time. She did not lose money dramatically. She did not make a bad decision in any obvious way. She was just quietly, slowly falling behind. Do you understand what I mean? This is inflation, not dramatic, not visible, not felt in any single month, but devastating over 5 years when you can finally see the gap. Okay, so let us start with the basics, because I think most people understand inflation as a concept, but almost nobody truly feels what it means for their personal finances over time. So, inflation is simply the rate at which prices increases over time. When inflation is 3% per year, something that cost you 100 euro cost 103 euro next year, and 106 euro the year after, and so on. That sounds manageable, almost trivial, but here is what the compounding does over time. At 3% annual inflation, in 10 years that same thing cost 134 euro. In 20 years, 181 euro. And in 30 years, almost 243 euros. The same thing, 2.5 times more expensive in one lifetime. Now, here is the critical question. What happens to your savings over those same 30 years? If your money set in a bank account earning 1% interest, in 30 years your 100 euro has become 135 euros, which sounds fine until you realize the thing you were saving for now costs 243 euros. Your savings grow, but purchase power shrank. You have more euros, but those euros buy you less. This is the silent theft of inflation, and it happens whether you feel it or not. The economist Irving Fisher, one of the most important American economists of the 20th century, spent his entire career studying the relation between inflation and money. His central insight was this: the value of the money is not the number on the note. It is the number and what the number can buy. And inflation erodes that number and what the number can buy, quietly, consistently, every single year. Now, here is the psychological part, and this is where it is getting really interesting. See, inflation does not arrive in one dramatic moment. It does not send you a notification. It does not appear as a single line item on your bank account. It arrives as 2 euro more on butter, 5 euro more on your weekly shop, 50 euro more as your rent, 30 euro more as your energy bill, 20 euro more on your phone contract. Each one feels small, individually, manageable, not worth worrying about. But look, do you understand what I mean when I say they add up? 2 euro more on butter every week, that's 104 euro a year. 50 euro more on the rent every month, that's 600 euro a year. 30 euro more on energy every month. 20 euro more on phone every month. This is around 1,300 euro a year in additional costs from 4 items alone, without any change in your lifestyle, without buying anything extra. Just the same things cost more. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel Prize winner in economics, he studied how humans perceive gradual changes versus sudden changes. His research showed that humans are extraordinarily bad at noticing slow incremental changes. We notice when something doubled overnight. We barely notice when it increased by 2% every year for 10 years, even though the end result is almost identical. This is why inflation feels invisible. It is designed not deliberately but mathematically to stay below the threshold of what our brains register as significant change. 2% on butter does not trigger an alarm. 400% on a house over 20 years does not arrive as a single event. It arrives as hundreds of small steps that our brain never add up. Until one day you look at the prices of something you bought 10 years ago and feel really shocked. Now, let me show you exactly what inflation has been doing to saving accounts across Europe over the last decade. For most, between 2010 and 2020, interest rates on saving accounts across Europe were between 0 and 1%. In some countries, even negative. You are literally paying banks to hold your money. And inflation during the same period, while lower than recent years, was consistently running between 1 and 2%. So, for someone with 50,000 euro in a saving account during that decade, like my mother, was losing approximately 1% of their purchasing power every single year. Not invisible euros leaving their account, but an invisible erosion of what those euros could actually buy. Over 10 years, this is roughly 10% of purchasing power quietly gone. On a 50,000 euro account, this is 5,000 of real wealth that simply disappeared. Without a single bad decision, without a single dramatic event. just the slow mathematical certainty of inflation running faster than savings interest. Now, recent years have been even more stark. Inflation in Europe hit 10% in 2022. Saving accounts were paying 1 to 2%. The gap between what your money earned and what inflation took was the largest it had been in decades. The people who kept large amount in savings account during that period lost significant purchasing power in real terms. Not because they made a mistake, because nobody had explained to them that a saving account alone is not a safe place to keep your money over the long term. This is a place to park money for the short term, for your emergency fund, for your near-term expenses, not for your long-term wealth. Okay, so here is the practical part, because understanding inflation without knowing what to do about it is frustrating rather than empowering. And there are three things that have historically beaten inflation over the long term. Number one, equities, stocks and index funds. The S&P 500 has returned an average of approximately 10% per year over the last century. Inflation has averaged approximately 3% per year over the same period. The real return after inflation is approximately 7% per year. That gap between what equities return and what inflation takes is how wealth is built over decades. Not by beating inflation in any single year, but by consistently staying ahead of it over a long period of time. Number two, property in appreciating markets. As we talked about in last week's video, property in many markets has outpaced inflation over the long term. My mother's apartment going from 50,000 to 75,000 euro in just 5 years, that was property doing what property does in a supply-constrained market, appreciating faster than the general rate of inflation. The problem, as we also discussed, is that property comes with significant cost, maintenance, purchase fees, locked capital, but as an inflation hedge is the right market. It has historically worked. Number three, inflation-linked assets. Some bonds and saving products are specifically linked to inflation. They pay interest at the inflation rate plus a small premium. In periods of high inflation, this becomes significantly more valuable. They are not the most exciting investment products, but they protect your purchasing power in a way that a standard saving account does not. The common thread across all three is this. Keeping money in a standard saving account is not a neutral act. It is a decision to slowly lose purchasing power over time. Look, let me come back to the car story. 3 years of saving, target moving faster than my savings. That experience taught me something that no finance book had explained clearly enough. Saving money is not the same as building wealth. Saving money is just preserving it. And only if inflation is not running faster than your interest rate. The moment inflation outpaces your saving rate, you are moving backwards while standing still. You are working harder to stay in the same place. The philosopher Heraclitus, the ancient Greek thinker who gave us the idea that you cannot step in the same river twice, said that everything is in a constant motion. Nothing stays the same. The world around you is always changing. Your saving account does not change. The number stays the same. But the world around it, the prices, the cost, the value of everything that money needs to buy, that changes consistently. And almost always upwards. See, the money my mother put in the bank did not change. The number stayed the same. But everything she could buy with it, slowly, quietly, invisibly, became more expensive. This is the real lesson of inflation. It is not about the number in your account. It is about what the number can do in the world. And if that number is not growing faster than the world around you, you are getting poorer whether you feel it or not. Two things before you go. The free portfolio tracker at NobodyToldMike.com. Go and put your savings in there alongside your investments. See what inflation does to your saving balance in real purchasing power term over 10, 20 and 30 years. That number is your own number. It's the most motivating thing I can show you. Link is in the description below. And join us on Discord at NobodyToldMike.com. This week's question is already live in the community. Now, one question for the comments. Have you ever felt inflation personally in a specific moment where you realized something cost significantly more than it used to? And how did it change how you think about money? I read every comment. I reply to everyone. See you in next video.